Hi, my name is Valentine and I'm going to show you how to create 2D game assets even if you can't draw. In this guide we are going to create these 2D game assets for a 2D platformer. The method that I use to create these 2D game assets is actually used quite frequently in the game industry, especially in indie game studios use this. For example, Butterscotch Shenanigans, I'm pretty sure they use it for the latest game. It's called Levelhead. They never publicly stated that they use this method, but they did say that they use to create these 2D assets by using their mouse to paint them and not any tablet or any drawing pencil or anything like that. So that suggests strongly to me that they are using a vector-based program such as Adobe Illustrator or Affinity Designer. So for this guide, we are not going to use Adobe Illustrator just because it's a subscription-based program and it's quite expensive. We are going to use Affinity Designer, which is a slightly more affordable option. It's a one-time purchase. So you buy it once and you own it. And the best thing is they have a free trial version that you can use to follow this guide if you want to. So first up, we are going to open Affinity Designer and create a new project. The size of the canvas does not really matter. You can just choose whatever you want here. Because it's a vector-based program, we can pretty much scale our designs up or down as much as we want to. We only have to choose a resolution once we export it. So don't worry about it, just choose anything you want and we can get started with the overview of this program. We will only be using the most basic tools for this tutorial. I will explain them really quickly before we get started with creating our game assets. So first of all, we will be using the geometrical shapes on the left toolbar throughout the guide. Simply click on the shape that you want and then click and drag it on the canvas. That will create the shape. Pressing Shift will make the shape scale equally in all directions, and pressing Alt and Shift will make it scale equally from the center of the shape. You can color the shape by using the Fill menu in the top left corner. You can also choose to fill in a gradient if you want to. You can use the gradient tool on the left toolbar in order to change the direction of the gradient if you want to. You can also use the transparent tool to create a transparent gradient on top of your shape if you want to. I won't be using this a lot in this guide, but it's definitely a useful tool. If you have multiple shapes in your scene, you can use the menu on the top in order to define where they are. Are they located in the front or in the back? And you can also use the buttons to individually move them up once or down one layer. If you select multiple shapes in your scene, then the top right menu will become available. This menu can be used to alter the general shape of your objects. So you can add your shapes together. You can subtract the top shape from the bottom shape to create a new shape. You can only get the intersecting shape of these two. You can get the not intersecting shapes of these two. In this case, the intersecting shape will be deleted. And finally, you can also divide your shapes if you want to. And finally, I will be using the effects menu. In the effects menu, you can add special effects to your shapes, like for example, a drop shadow. You can make them look 3D and all that kind of stuff. Alright, now that we have the basics down, let's start by creating the ground tiles for our 2D adventure game. So first of all, I will use a rectangle and I will scale it to have equal size. So it's basically a square. You can either do that by just simply entering a number, as I did, in the bottom right corner, or you can just scale it equally by holding Shift and yeah, until it's the right size for you. Then I will enter two more shapes, a circle and a small square. And these are going to be our details. So I will select them, and then I will go into the effects menu, and I will select bevel down there. I will add a outer shadow later on to kind of smooth them in, but for now I'm just going to add this effect here. You can copy my settings, or you can play around on your own until you find something that fits. The effects menu is really, really great, so I would highly recommend you to try the different settings in there and see what they do, and just yeah, you can experiment in there. You can do a lot with effects. There are some custom colors pre-selected whenever you use an effect. I will change them slightly just because I think it looks better, but you can also leave them as they are. It's up to you, really. So you can see I'm trying around a bit until it looks good. And like I said, there are a lot of settings in there, and you can easily overdo it. So I'm trying to be very careful here to kind of inch my way forward to looks good. I think that's looking quite good right now. So I will make a bit more intense here, so it looks a bit better. Now I will add a outer shadow. So the outer shadow is basically just so that the details are blending into the background. In this case, blending into the background tile, so it doesn't look like so the effect isn't so strong here. All right, that looks good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I will copy and paste these shapes. First of all, I will scale them down a little bit, and then I will copy and paste them and spread them in a random order. So these are just details. You can space them or put them wherever you want. I will copy them, the whole tile, and I will change the details in each of these tiles just to make them look more unique. That's a great trick, by the way. Whenever you are designing something, don't design everything that you do from the ground up. You can use what you already built and just diversify it or change it a little bit. You will see more of this, reuse of what we already built later on. So as I said, I will copy them here. 3 will be enough, I think, and I will just rearrange the details a little bit to make each tile look unique. You have to be careful though. Don't put the details too far to the right or to the left, or generally just to the edges, and try to arrange them randomly as you can. You will have a hard time to actually arrange them random, as crazy as it sounds, but the more random they are, the more natural they are looking. So we'll copy all 3 of these tiles because I want not only ground tiles, I also want tiles that have some grass on them. So I will copy them and I will use circles, as you can see right here. We'll just color them in light green. And I will copy and paste these circles to the right until they cover all of the 3 top squares. So as I'm copying them, I press down Shift when I pull them to the side. This will guarantee me that they are on the same line as the others are. You can also just copy the 3 of them, and then I will copy all of them and just paste them over to the next tile like this. And a third time. Yeah, there we go. Now I will rearrange them a little bit because I want them to look diverse. I want them to look different and unique, each of these tiles, but I won't change the outer circles, like the circles to the edges, because I want the tiles to fit on one another. So I'm trying to keep them level with each other. Once I have done that, I will pick a rectangle, and I will put the rectangle on the top there, just to cover the top brown part of the tiles, because we don't need it anymore. And we will create a new shape. This has to be in the front. Right, there we go. We will create a new shape out of all of these shapes. Just have to select them carefully. Don't want to select any details from the bottom tile. Yeah, perfect. Okay, and then I will combine them like so, pressing add up here. Just double checking. Oh yeah, I had the left wrong as well. All right, so the color will change. That doesn't matter really. It's mainly because there were some details below, and we'll just take the effect and the colors of the details. We can just disable the effects and change the color to green again, like so. A little bit more grayish green. There we go. Alright, then I will select the tiles individually because I want to create a new shape, like so, and I will press divide up here. So this will create new shapes. I can delete this shape, and there we go. We have top tiles with grass, as easy as that. Alright, so now we have these individual shapes. As you can see, they're individual shapes. I'll move this detail down a little bit. Looks better this way. I will rearrange all the details a little bit so that it didn't look too much like the ground tiles down below. And then I will add a effect to the grass. I will just add a simple drop shadow effect down, just to make it look like the grass is actually growing on top, or actually over the ground, and not just like pasted on top of it, like drawn on top of it. Don't overdo this, by the way. Whenever you're working with effects, try to be very careful. Try to inch your way forward and don't. Yeah, it's very easy to overdo it. So we'll just a simple shadow, like so. I will move the angle up a little bit so that it looks like the sun or the light is coming from top down. The reason for that is these different tiles will later on be on top of them, another, so they will basically be arranged next to each other. And if you take a angle that's, for example, from top right, it will look a little bit weird because the tile next to it may not look like the sun is coming from the direction, but if you choose the direction from top down, you won't have that problem at all. And there we go. We now have our ground tiles done. Yeah, it was easy. We will obviously also need some trees for our scene, so let's make them now. Trees are actually really easy to do. All we need is a ellipse, so I will just ellipse. I will use the same color as I use for the grass, just like that. I will also add a gradient to our little tree. You can use the gradient tool on the left toolbar to decide where the light is coming from, or the direction of the gradient. And I will slightly change the color of, or the darker color. I will go a little bit of a bluish color, and the light side is going to be a little bit more white, just like that. Alright, yeah, I have to change the direction so the light side is up. Okay, there we go. Now this doesn't look really like a tree, so we have to add some leaves. Leaves are actually really easy to do. What we have to do is we will use 3 ellipses. I will just pull one up. I will make it one color. I don't want gradient in here, and I will just copy and paste them, and then arrange them in a leaf-like form. We'll make it a bit darker. Okay, there we go. I'll just arrange them in a leaf-like formation. So a little bit like this, and then in the other direction, and there we go. We have our leaves. What I have to do is take this and spread them all over the shape to break and try to break up the shape a little bit, like I do right here when I put them on the outer edge. So this will break the general shape of the tree and make it look like it's made um, out of leaves. Artists use this frequently. So if you break up the silhouette of a form with tiny details like this, it will instantly make the whole shape or the whole object more look more like it's made out of it. So even though there are just some forms like peeking out of there, our eyes will fill in the details and it will make it look as if like the whole tree is made out of leaves, like the whole form is made out of leaves, if that makes sense. I will also use some of these leaves and sort of create a shadow area. So we'll pick the color. By the way, you can pick the surrounding color by just selecting the shapes that you want to color in, and then press I, and then just click on the color that you want to select, and will instantly select it, and just color the shape that you selected in the color that you choose with the eyedropper tool. What I'm doing here is I will just create a soft sort of shadow line with these leaf forms, and it will make it look as if the whole tree is made out of these leaves. This is, by the way, also something that Nintendo loves to do in their games. They would just use pretty much this theory, this like theory of shapes, to trick the eye and therefore spare on too much detail. So they won't use much detail, but they make it look as if they do use a lot of detail. Once I'm done here, this is basically the whole tree. I'll just add some more leaves here. All right, there we go. That's our tree top. Now all that's left is a trunk, obviously. And by the way, I will not combine this shape, because if I do, it will just fill in the whole gradient, like the whole shape will then have one gradient, and I don't want that. I want this like rough shadow edge that I created in the middle of these of the tree. So I'll add a simple trunk. All I have to do is pull a rectangle down there, create one down there, and then I'll arrange it in the background, and I will choose a brownish grayish color. Here we go. I will also add a gradient, but this time it won't be a light gradient. I will actually create a darker shade, and I will change the direction of this gradient from top to bottom, because this will give the illusion as if the top part of the tree is basically casting a shadow down on the trunk. So this isn't really looking like a tree trunk now, and it's also not center, so I'll center this. By the way, if you choose one shape and use your arrow keys left and right, Affinity Designer will show you these nifty little numbers that actually help you to arrange shapes perfectly center. Well, not always perfectly, but close enough. No one will notice actually. So we'll add a rectangle to the bottom of the tree to make it sort of look as if there are there's more underneath the earth than you would normally see. So whenever you have a shape, you create a new shape and you want to change that shape, you can press, like as I did right now, on the top in the top middle bar on convert to curves. So this will basically convert a shape to curves, and it will allow you to change the general shape like that by just simply picking individual vertices and then just changing them. Also select the lower new rectangle and the top rectangle, and I add them together, and then I'm going to change the vertices. So you can just click one vertice, and then you can kind of like round the edges, not the edges, the corners like this, which will make it look a little bit more organic. And I will move these vertices up a little bit to make the transition better. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, there we go. I will also use. Will yeah. The cars are actually in a weird angle here, so it doesn't really work. So I'll just move them in a little bit. These individual vertices down there. That's the wrong tool. Here we go. That's wrong one. Okay. I will simply move them in a little bit to yeah, that's better. To make it look a bit better. So there we go. That's a tree trunk. Perfect. It's also I have to move it back. There you go. Okay. That's perfect. So we also want some bushes in our scene. So all we have to do is just copy the top part of the tree, and then we will just deform it slightly. So first of all, I will scale it down a bit, make it rounder, and then we convert the back shape to curves, and then I will just simply move the bottom vertex up a little bit. And there we go. And yeah, and finally I will move some of these leaves to another location, just to address for the changed shape of the tree. And there we go, as easy as that. As I mentioned before, reuse whatever you already built as much as possible. Will save you so much time if you do, and literally no one will realize. On the contrary, actually, the more you reuse general shapes like this, the more coherent the whole assets will look. Next up, we are going to create some spikes. Every good platformer needs some spikes. The way we create them is pretty much the same as we created the ground tiles before. You will see the method is pretty much the same for all of these shapes. Once you understood how to work with Affinity Designer, you can really create anything. So we will just create some triangles. We will change the color to something grayish bluish to make them more look like stone or metal. We will change the direction of the gradient by using the gradient tool. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, you first have to select the shape and then use the gradient tool. Yeah, otherwise it won't work. It's that way. Perfect. Like that. Okay, perfect. So I will add some details, just like before. I'll actually change the color a little bit more, make it a bit more gray. Okay, that looks better. So I will add some details. These details are pretty much the same as I used before on the ground tiles. So just use two shapes, one ellipse. I will add a gradient to the ellipses this time, just to add some variety. And I will keep it. Or just use ellipses, that's right. Then I will add some effects, as I did before. It's really the same. Like once you have the basics down, you can reuse the same things, the same process over and over again to create these assets, and they will turn out great. The more experience you get with the program, the better and the faster you will be. So, by the way, this is all very basic. You can create way more effects and can also overlay different shapes to make shapes look more detailed. This is really just the basics, but the basics also already look really great. Okay, I will copy the detail shapes, and I will rescale and reform them a little bit. And there we go. And then we'll copy the whole triangle because well, all the wood spikes are coming in at least in pairs, but most of the time in triplets. So I will copy the spikes 3 times, and then I will copy the details as well. First of all, I will actually combine the spike shape, and then I will copy the details and just arrange them in a random order. You can also, if you want to, I will only do this one spike here, or this one arrangement of spikes here. But if you want to, you can just copy and paste the whole arrangement and recolor the spikes, rearrange the details, add more details, whatever you want to make them look diverse, and then spread them throughout your levels. Trust me, no one will notice that they are basically reused assets. So as I mentioned, you can use the same things we used to create all the other assets to create a coin. All we have to do is we will use a circle as a base. Then we will go into effects. We will choose 3D effect, which is a little bit different than the other effect we used so far. The 3D effect basically just makes a shape look 3D, as the name suggests. Then I will copy the most outer circle, I will paste it, and then I will scale it by holding Shift and Alt to make it scale equally, and to make it scale around the center of the circle. Make it a bit smaller, then I will add a simple inner shadow to make this part look a little bit darker, as if there's a shadow across it. It's like a little bit indent. Then I will copy the most outer circle again, the one with the 3D effect on it, and I will paste it in the middle. And this will basically make it look like a circle. So you see it sped up here, but like I said, it's pretty much the same method I used for all the other assets in here. I will also add a text in the middle, which is a bit different, but the basics are the same. So just select the text tool, enter whatever you want. I'm just gonna enter a C for coin, and then choose your font. I will obviously use Comic Sans, because if you're a designer, your heart will bleed right now. And then I will just add an effect to the font as well. So in this case, I will just make an inner shadow, and I will make a outer shadow that's a bit lighter, just like that. And there we go. There we have all our assets. Now all that's left is exporting them properly. So we will just select the one asset that we want to export. Then we will go to File, Export, and then you will have this menu right here. The first thing we are going to do is we will select PNG, because we want to export as a PNG. Then we will select only export selected without background, which is very important, without background. We don't want the background here. And now, finally, you can choose the actual resolution that you want the asset to export. So I will just choose 128 pixels, which is standard for a ground tile, suspended resolution. But you can choose whatever you want. Be careful not to overdo it, because if it's too high, the resolution is too high, your game is going to run very slowly. And by the way, Unity does support vector graphics. So if you are using Unity, an option you can do is you can export your chosen asset as a SVG, which is a vector-based file, and then just import the vector-based file into Unity and use that. But for now, I just want to use PNG. As you can see here, let's export properly. Now all we have to do is repeat that for all the other assets, and then import them into Unity. So as you can see here, I've imported all of them in Unity. You can obviously import them in any game engine you want. Unity is just my choice. And Unity, you can just pick them and place them in your scene. And there you go. You created your own 2D assets. If you want to, you could also create a game character. Now, because this video is already so long, I will only do a very simple 2D character. If you want a more complex one, let me know in the comments below, and I will make a follow-up video on how to create a complex character. But for now, we are going to stick with a simple blob character. So to create a blob character, it will be slightly different than before. We are going to use some more complex tools right here. So first of all, we're just going to create a circle, then we're going to convert it into curves, and then we are only slightly moving the lower point, the lower vertex up a little bit to make it look more blob-like. Then we will give it a color. I want to give it a more purplish, reddish color and a little bit darker, just like that. And we are going to add a gradient, but this time it won't be a linear gradient, it will actually be an elliptical gradient. The difference is that an elliptical gradient will give a, as the name already suggests, a elliptical like spot where the light hits, and that will make a round shape look more 3D, more like a actual 3D. There we go, an actual 3D blob in this case. So first of all, I will just use this to kind of get the direction down, and then I will go up here and I will change this to elliptical, just like that, and then I will place it right here, and I will make the shadows a little bit more, just to give this like nice little spot right here and make it look like a blob. There we go. Finally, I will add two eyes. I will basically just use two ellipses, just like that. Add one here and add one there. Then I will color the ellipses in. I will make it a little bit darker. I'll also use a gradient to make the eyes look as if they get some light in the front, and then will get darker the further it gets back. And I will copy and paste both of these ellipses, move them a little bit more towards the center of the body, and then I will divide the forms, and I will delete the forms that are further back, and I will just color the two forms that are the front a little bit darker, so this will give the illusion as if the eyes are really set deep in our blob, so it will basically make them look more like two holes, really. But I guess it's done. And there we are, that's our blob character, as easy as that. I also went ahead and created a backdrop. It's really a very basic backdrop. I used the same methods that I used to create all the rest of these assets, and I will scale it a little bit up more, and then we'll import our blob scene, and there we go. You just created a 2D asset set, basically 2D asset set for a 2D platform, and you never even had to draw one line.